All right, thank you so much for staying with the Daybreak. Like I mentioned earlier on, it's the World Wildlife Day, WWD, and Kenya is joining the world in marking that. We have an exclusive conversation with Brigadier Retired John Waweru, who is the Director General for Kenya Wildlife Service, to talk to us on this day. He's joining us live from Diani, that's in Kwale. Brigadier, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. So, DG, the world is marking Wildlife Day. What is really there to celebrate?
Good morning, Trevor, and thank you very much for having me on the program. Yes, indeed, today we are celebrating the World Wildlife Day, which is celebrated today every year on the 3rd of March. And really, what we do during this day is we support wildlife and plants across the world. In fact, it goes in line with the theme today, and the theme for this year is forests and livelihood. And really the aim of the day is to ensure that we celebrate the beauty of the wild flora and fauna that actually is the home of wildlife.
Yeah.
And then also we want to celebrate the fact that we involve communities into conservation, and hence the issue of the livelihoods. It's the livelihoods of the communities that coexist with wildlife.
Yeah. But DG, what was your highlight for
today?
What was your highlight for 2020, so to speak?
Yes, 2020 is a year last year we feel very, very proud about. The reason is because for the first time in 21 years, we actually were able to get zero rhino poaching, and that only happened, last time it happened was in 1999. So for us, that was a major achievement, and so that is why we feel very happy that we were able to do that in 2020, really through the efforts of course, management within KWS, and of course the dedication of the rangers on the ground.
Yeah.
And also because we had an approach we could be able to do with other agencies of security within the nation. And because of that, we were able to actually celebrate zero poaching in rhinos. And it's no mean feat, Trevor.
Yeah. DG, this is a big deal. It's been 21 years before we achieved zero rhino poaching. What was so different this time?
I think what was more different is the multi-agency approach. We had, and of course in line with government, government has sensitized the issue of wildlife security through a multi-agency approach. And because of that, we were able to act with the various agencies, but more so because we were able to act with local communities, being at the forefront, our first line of defense in the protection of wildlife. And because of that, and cascading of information from the local level all the way up to where we are and back down, we were able to anticipate what these poachers were planning to do, and actually be able to stop it before it happened. So that, I can say that is the main reason why this time we're able to be that successful.
So DG, you achieved this with the rhinos, but what about elephants?
Yes, actually, Trevor, again, we have another first. For the first time, we, of course, we don't like losing animals, but for the first time, we only lost 11 elephants to poaching. I mean, that's a major achievement, because it's never happened in the history of KWS to be able to lose only 11. Of course, our plan going forward is that we should just replicate the rhino story as well and do the same for elephants. And again, it's just enhanced patrols with our people and the local communities, and the collaboration that goes on between the local communities and KWS and other multi-agency security teams.
Did you put this for me into context? So when we say we only lost 11, how many were we losing before, and how do we compare to other countries like South Africa, for example?
Like, for example, when you think about the height of the poaching of elephants in 2012, we were losing over 340 elephants a year. So when you compare with that and now, and of course last year we lost about 38 elephants. I mean the year before last, 2019. So of course for us moving from 38 to 11 was a major achievement. But when you think of the height of poaching, where we are talking about 340 plus per year, this was quite a significant achievement. Of course, if you compare to what South Africa is, Southern Africa, and particularly South Africa, which lost, I think in 2019, about 500 plus elephants. So yes, this is a big achievement for us. And we feel we are the lead. We have taken lead as far as anti-poaching operations are concerned.
So what is the greatest challenge when it comes to poaching, DG? Because I'm wondering, is it that the poachers are not trying now, or is it that the surveillance is now more intense?
As I said, Trevor, the surveillance is definitely now more intense than it was before. You anticipate, of course, what the poachers would most likely do, and that is the reason why, since our intelligence systems are actually working very well, together with those of the other security agencies, it is a lot easier to anticipate. Remember, if you respond as a reaction to poaching, then you'll only be playing catch-up all the time, Trevor. I'm sure you appreciate that. Yeah. But if you are able to anticipate action before it happens, then of course, this then enables you to be able to stop the action before it takes place. So this has actually been the reason why we had an achievement. However, challenges are still there. Okay, illegal poaching, of course, cuts across the big game, and that is we're talking about elephants and rhinos. But then, in as much as we were successful in 2020 to be able to prevent or minimize those of elephants and of course stop those ones of rhinos, we are having another new challenge, Trevor. And the big challenge we're having right now is bushmeat poaching. That is what we've seen has increased over time. Now, it's very unfortunate because really many a time, the reason why bushmeat poaching takes place is because actually it's just consumed by the communities themselves. And what we are doing is engaging the communities to be able to educate them and tell them that bushmeat, first and foremost, has it's not safe to eat directly, and two, it is a heritage that they will be losing in time if they continue with that practice. So we are engaging the communities to sensitize them about the issue of bushmeat poaching. But so those are some of the challenges that we're actually facing with regard to poaching.
In your experience, do punitive fines have an impact in poaching?
Well, punitive fines, yes, it's a deterrence when you have a punitive fine. But I think more important, Trevor, is being able to educate the people that are engaged in poaching. Poaching, the people who do poaching don't come from very far. They want to engage people with the local knowledge, people who have or know where the animals would be or are able to target them. They know the behavior of those animals. So very many times it's actually a local or somebody in that area who does that. Now, fines are one thing. Yes, they can be able to discourage people, but I think more important is just educating the local community that is more beneficial to keep the animals rather than to have them, to poach them. Yeah. So that for us is the approach.
Okay. So there's poaching, and then there's incidents like what happened in Soisambu, where 2 giraffes were electrocuted. How can such incidences be avoided?
First and foremost, Trevor, allow me to say that it was indeed very unfortunate that we lost two giraffes in the way we did with electrocution. Now, that should not happen because in as much as we know development must go on, we also must make sure that we are able to look after animals, especially protected areas. We are in touch with Ketraco. We have been talking with them. We have been even before. It was just unfortunate that these cables were very low, and those 2 giraffes unfortunately got electrocuted. But more important going forward is that we've now started working towards raising those electrical cables and wires so that they do not affect wildlife. And of course, I'm aware that the PS Tourism, the CS Tourism and Wildlife and the CS Energy are talking with regard to having a policy direction on how we will be able to have those pylons created in such a way that they do not have or create danger for protected animals. So yes, this is something that we're having a conversation with Ketraco and of course the Ministry of Energy as Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, and it is something that will be resolved, but it's unfortunate that that had to happen the way it did.
All right, DG, so let's talk about a bit of human-wildlife conflict, which is still an issue, like in Kajiado and Taita Taveta. What is your plan to minimize such incidents of human-wildlife conflict?
Trevor, I think we are aware that as the nation grows, the population of people will grow. And because of the good conservation efforts and the methods we're using, the population of wildlife also grows. But remember, Trevor, the space where we are, that we occupy, is finite. So there tends to then be a competition for land, between humans and wildlife. However, how do we mitigate that? We mitigate it by having ecosystem management plans done, which then can be able to clearly demarcate land that is meant for use for either planting or other ways, and then land that is for conservation. And by so doing, and also again, the issue of education is very important. By so doing, we are able to minimize the incidence of human-wildlife conflict because then we are able to actually demarcate clear zones by zoning to be able to say this is a wildlife or conservation area and this is for use for for planting or other uses of land. And that is how we are able to mitigate. And of course, by educating people that you need to give the animals and create and remove people from corridors where animals normally pass. Because if you block the corridors, I can guarantee you, Trevor, those elephants, those big animals, and all the others will still want to come through the same space. And that is where now conflict actually comes in between human beings and animals. However, because of those type of ecosystem plans that we're talking about, we are then able to and I would like to go away from the narrative of human-wildlife conflicts. I like to think more of human-wildlife coexistence, where the two can coexist together.
Yeah, but these zones that you're talking about, DG, is it an institutional failure when it comes to demarcating the zones? Because we still see some people allocated certain parts that are pathways of animals to go through.
One of the things that we're doing, Trevor, is having a conversation, particularly with the Ministry of Lands and with regard to zoning areas. We are talking with them. We are making them understand that there are certain spaces, and of course, this is driven by the communities themselves. Once they are convinced that conservation is a viable way of existence, then those areas are then zoned out. But then Ministry of Lands, of course, is involved and included in such a way that they can be able to say, okay, we understand this, the use of this. We should not change it until or unless the community itself comes back and says, maybe now it's time to change. But then, of course, that will mean an area has now moved from a conservation area to uses other than wildlife conservation. But this must be a discussion between the local authorities who understand the area very well, Kenya Wildlife Service, and of course Ministry of Lands. But this is a conversation that is going on because already we have certain challenges. But Trevor, it's not all dark because Recently, I think you noticed that late last year, we were given, the Nairobi National Park was extended by another 2,000 acres. And actually, Kenya Wildlife Service got a title on that. And that now will help Nairobi National Park to be able to open up to the south, which it had before. I think if you look at the Kitengela area, right now it's quite populated. And some of those were actually dispersal areas. So it's a good move that the government is already making towards re-establishing dispersal areas and corridors, so that we can then be able to have the movement of animals between parks re-established again. So this is a good move, and we truly welcome it, and we're very happy about it.
All right. DG, there's a tweet I'm seeing here from one Karen Karimi. She's saying that the newest threat to Amboseli is a proposed avocado farm within the National Wildlife Corridor, which is identified by the Vision 2030 Wildlife Report, securing wildlife migratory routes and corridors. So she further says that the development will interfere with the two key migratory routes that are critical for connecting Amboseli National Park with the Chulu Hills and Savo ecosystem to the east. What is the true position on this?
Actually, Trevor, the position there is that, yes, there are these farms that are trying to be established outside the area of Amboseli. Kenya Wildlife Service is already in engagement with the owners of those farms. We have actually informed them that this is a dispersal area. It's a corridor for elephants to go between some conservancies and the park. So we are already engaging them to tell them, please do not do that, because the first thing that's going to happen, obviously, the elephants will still come through. And the next thing that will happen is that that crop, that investment that they're trying to put there, will certainly be destroyed by the same animals. And we don't want that to happen. And again, of course, maybe they will use methods to block the animals from trying to come through. And that is not the right way to go. So yes, we're in engagement with these entrepreneurs who want to open these farms, and we are not for those farms being set up. We need to establish and keep that corridor open so that those animals can go through without being deterred. So yes, we've engaged them, and I think we're moving in the right direction with being able to maintain those areas as corridors.
Who owns the titles to these lands that you're talking about, DG?
You see, this land is outside the national parks. It's not within the parks. It's just outside the parks. Remember, areas outside the park could either be conservancies or private land.
Yeah.
So these are areas that are owned privately. But we are telling them, if you convert them into farming areas where you will be doing avocados, then the next thing you're going to get is conflict, and you're going to block the elephants. Particularly because those are the ones that actually keep moving back and forth. You'll block them from being able to get to the other areas where they normally move. And of course, instantly what we get then is a human-wildlife conflict situation.
So I'm getting a situation where this will really depend on the goodwill between maybe KWS and the owners of the land, because you don't have legal backing to stop them from getting the avocado farms going, right?
Well, yes and no, because of course we can also step in through the Ministry of Lands and let them know. Because you see, before the avocado farms were created, of course there was no problem with the animals moving back and forth. But you see, the moment you do that and probably put a fence that will block these animals, then we need an intervention beyond the individuals, because we must go back and tell the individuals, if you create this corridor, or rather you block this corridor, you are going to have a problem with animals and conflict thereof. So they need to understand that. Although it's a conversation, Trevor, we're not yielding a big stick and telling them to get out. We can't do that, because this is their private land. However, we are in discussion with the Ministry of Lands to at least assist us not have that land changed from a conservation area to now an area that is going to be used for planting avocados.
Yeah.
So that conversation is going on, Trevor.
DG, speaking of that, there was also some times back, and I think it was either in 2019, where KWS was under fire for wanting to build a 5-star hotel in one of the parks. What is the true position on that?
Trevor, Kenya Wildlife Service is not building a 5-star hotel anywhere within its reserves. And I know this comes from the Nairobi National Park draft management plan that we had sent out. We are not doing that. What we are doing is we are trying to increase the amenities available in the park by improving on them rather than building a new structure. We are not building new structures. We're just improving on what is there in the sense like, say for example, let me just talk about the clubhouse. Our clubhouse actually was the residence of Liki when he first was the director within the park. Now, it has been converted since when Dr. Kim Ngetich was there. He actually converted it into a clubhouse. Now, the way it sits, it's not really designed as a restaurant or a place where people can actually be able to come and have a meal. It's just that we just converted it. Now, what we want to do is improve so that when you come to the park, you have a chance to be able to see the animals, but then to get a refreshment. Right now, yes, you can get one from the clubhouse, but that's the only place that you can in the entire park. Now, the other place we also want to put up, to see if we can put a restaurant or somebody that can be able to have an eatery. What we're calling an eatery is the Impala point, which also we have identified in the same plan to be able to put up a restaurant so that people can be able to view the park, and there's already a viewpoint right now, but then also get a refreshment and be able to use amenities and so on and so forth. It's not a 5-star hotel. We are not building any 5-star hotel, and I would like the general public to know we are not doing that.
Okay. Did you have a question here that's coming through on Twitter from one Peter Kibet Langat? He's saying that applaud Brigadier and his team for the good work. However, most of his success to deter poaching was significant in 2020. Would it be right to say that the decline in poaching was due to immobilization caused by COVID-19 pandemic, hence disrupting the trade?
Actually, Trevor, the opposite is what is true. Immediately, COVID kicked in. What happened is there was, and we sensed it through the intelligence networks, that the poaching was actually going to go up rather than go down. And that's how we mobilized using the multi-agency approach, and we were able to actually curb it before it took place. So it's not true to say that actually because of COVID it had gone down. The opposite was about to happen. But we were able to actually nail it before it became a problem for us. So actually the opposite is true.
Okay. I still have another question here from Victor Mutoro. Yes. He's saying, kindly ask the DG, what is their plan for unemployment? What are they planning to do with their graduates from Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute in Naivasha?
Okay. First and foremost, let me talk about employment by what the government did the other day. Trevor, you very well know there was an economic stimulus package that was given by His Excellency the President, where R1 billion was given to conservancies, and another R1 billion was set aside for the employment of 5,500 community scouts. Now, this is a positive move, of course, by government, which we applauded very much, because one thing it helps us is to be able to engage the very same community I'm talking about here. The communities now will have scouts. Of course, they had them before, but we're now having an increase of 5,500 towards the same issue of conserving wildlife. But now you have community scouts that live within the communities that work with Kenya Wildlife Service for that conservation of wildlife. So on employment, that I think is a big step towards conservation and having the community scouts work with Kenya Wildlife Service to be able to do that. Now, as far as Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute in Naivasha, yes, we do train those personnel. But remember, these are people that have come in to get training by us, just like any other institution. And it's not everybody that gets trained there will be absorbed within Kenya Wildlife Service. However, another new development has come as far as Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute is concerned. We now know there's the formation of the new Wildlife Research and Training Institute, which is actually contained in the Act, Kenya Wildlife Service Wildlife Act 2013, which contains the Wildlife Research Training Institute. Now, the research and the training component of Kenya Wildlife Service will now continue at KWSTI, but then also the research part will come in. So there's a bit of a transformation there. But as far as the people that are trained there, you'll notice the quality of the training that is done at Kenya Wildlife Service Training Institute is very high quality, because you find those that are trained there, more often than not, are actually absorbed in hotels, particularly around Naivasha. Yeah. You'll notice most of the hotels actually absorb those people that are trained by ourselves. So the plan is not for us to train them and then employ all of them at Kenya Wildlife Service. We do take some of them. But then, of course, it's to give them tools to be able to work in the tourism market so that they can then be able to assist us, even though they're employed externally. So yes, it's not about all of them being absorbed at Kenya Wildlife Service. It's actually a training institute that provides training for people to be able to go and then work in the tourism industry.
All right, DG, I have to take a quick break here. When we come back, we now talk about the year ahead and the marking of the World Wildlife Day. It's a very hard term. That's why I like to call it WWD, yes. And look forward into 2021 in just a bit. Right after this, the Director General is staying with us, Brigadier John Waweru. We'll be back with him in just a bit. Send in your questions at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're back in just a bit. All right, thank you so much for staying with Citizen TV. Brigadier Retired John Waweru, the Director General for Kenya Wildlife Service, is still with us, joining us on this Wildlife Day, live from Diani in Kwale. If you're still with us there, DG, they seem to have a bit of a challenge with you there. DG, there's a question here that's coming through on this issue of compensation when an animal kills someone. What is the procedure that is supposed to be there? Because people are complaining about the delays in terms of disbursement. All right, we seem to be having a bit of a connectivity challenge there with the Director General. We're getting back in touch with him in just a bit. He's joining us live from Kwale, that's in Indiani, on this Wildlife Day. We're talking about the issues to do with compensation and several issues that are coming up here on Twitter as well. He mentioned earlier on that in the year 2020, there was zero rhino poaching. He's attributing this to the conservation efforts that have been put in place by KWS and also the people around the park and the people there making sure that nothing happens to the animals on this day where the world is really marking the World Wildlife Day to ensure that there's nothing going on and happening to our animals on this day. So now let's bring in, let me see what the questions you're posing here on Twitter. Peter Kibet Langat there already sent in a question and asking whether there was a reduction in poaching because of COVID-19. The DG answered that question earlier on, mentioning that actually the reverse was true, that there were actually more attempts to do just that, poaching. And also he has mentioned that last year in 2020, the number of poaching for elephants reduced from more than 350 to about 11. Which is also an achievement there, is attributing to the concerted efforts between the agencies and also KWS. We're taking a quick break here. When we come back, we'll be crossing over to Eldoret, where also John Wanyama is standing by to speak to the residents there and find out what exactly they're doing to conserve the environment and wildlife on this WWD Day. You can also send in your questions at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya is the hashtag. Daybreak, we're back in just 1 minute as we try and sort out that sound coming through in just a bit. All right, we apologize for that slight technical hitch. The Director General for Kenya Wildlife Service is back with us, retired Brigadier John Waweru. DG, before we had that slight technical hitch, the question was coming from the people who are wondering that sometimes it takes quite a while for compensation after an animal kills a person. What is the procedure generally, and why are there delays?
Trevor, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, you're clear.
Yes, thank you very much, Trevor. Yes, indeed, if an animal were to attack a person, and usually outside in the conservation area, there is a way to get compensated. The incident should be reported to the area warden, who then will provide forms that will be filled out, and of course it will be recorded as such. Now, of course, the question is, why does it take so long for the compensation to take place? The reason is because, Trevor, the budget that is actually provided for compensation is actually quite small compared to the cases available. Let me just give you an example. Right now, we have about 10 billion shillings claims by Kenyans for various things, from death, crop destruction, animal predation, and so on and so forth, that have been put in. And only about 1.7, let's just say about 2 billion, has been paid so far for cases going back from 2014 to date. That is the challenge, Trevor. The fact that the amount of funds that we have available for compensation is quite minimal, and of course this is allocated through Parliament. But we at the ministry and at Kenya Wildlife Service ensure that the processing for whatever funds are available is done expeditiously. Because we understand when people are hurt or people have lost a loved one, clearly we need to be able to compensate those people as quickly as we can. However, the cases vis-a-vis what we have for allocated is usually that's where the disparity is. But the government is doing everything it can to make sure that this compensation is progressively done, of course, by seeing if we can get bigger allocations. But so far, the allocation is usually the challenge, not the processes at Kenya Wildlife Service. Those ones are done quite expeditiously.
All right. So, DG, the year 2020 to date, we are still dealing with COVID-19. So flights were cancelled, conferences were called off. How badly did this affect park visitation and revenue streams for KWS?
Trevor, it affected Kenya Wildlife Service, of course the tourism industry, but particularly Kenya Wildlife Service in a very significant way. We actually had 88% drop in visitor numbers and over 90% drop in revenue. Now, that is because the way we used to do, or rather target visitation, is external visitation instead, external visitation more so than internal, local visitation. Now, because of that, we had to sit down and rethink what to do, because flights had been cancelled. People who were supposed to visit from countries out of Kenya could not visit. So what were we supposed to do? So what did we do? We actually came up with a plan to target the local visitors, local residents, to be able to visit their parks. And we found out, Trevor, that the issue actually is about information dissemination. People don't know. A number of people don't even know what is in Nairobi National Park or other areas. And Trevor, I'm sure you've seen of late a program that we're pushing of Zuru na Kenya Wildlife Service, Zuru na KWS. There's a hashtag on that. If you look at that, you will see that what we are targeting is the local market, the local residents, to be able to understand what wildlife they have, what gems they have out there. And I can tell you, Trevor, if you go today to, do you know that there are elephants that actually live in caves, and that is in Mount Elgon?
In caves?
I'm sure not many Kenyans know that. Yes, there are elephants that actually live in caves in Mount Elgon.
And I've been here 33 years and I have no idea.
So you see, Trevor, there are so many gems out there. Yeah, look at where we are today in the Diani area. Kisite Mpunguti is a national reserve. And if you go there, of course, you'll be able to swim with dolphins. We have a whale migration that happens between July and September every year. And those whales come from Southern Africa, and they actually come to Kisite Mpunguti and Watamu to breed.
But there I saw an article. I saw an article from the US, or was it a foreign article, saying that they discovered whales. So we've always had this here in this country.
They have always come, Trevor. I don't think it's something that was discovered elsewhere. These whales have always been around here. It's just that, as I said, information was the issue here. The fact that Kenyans are not aware that there are all these beautiful things. So through the Zuru campaign, the Zuru na KWS campaign, we are now moving that agenda so that we can tell Kenyans, come, visit your own parks. come and see what it is that you have. This is your heritage. Come and enjoy it, because it's there for you. And then, of course, to also encourage people to come, we cut down our rates by 50%.
Yeah.
So whereas we used to charge 800 shillings to visit Nairobi National Park, today you can visit the park with 400 shillings.
Yeah.
So we want to encourage the local residents to visit and come and see what it is that Kenya holds for them. And believe me, Trevor, wherever you go, it's a unique experience from the last one.
Yeah.
There are 23 national parks and 28 national reserves. By the time you're through with all of them, believe me, you'll see very different things at different areas. So come and enjoy the park. That's what we're telling Kenyans.
So, like right now, the world is really marking the World Wildlife Day. What are we doing as a nation? Because you're in Kwale, in Diani. What is there a celebration, any commitments we're making this time?
Yes, Trevor, in fact, today we are going to have a celebration, and that celebration is going to be held at Shimoni at about 10 o'clock today. And we are going to involve the communities, and we are going to be planting today 50,000 seedlings of mangrove. Now, of course, the theme, as I mentioned earlier, of the World Wildlife Day is forests and livelihood. As I mentioned earlier, forest is where, of course, wildlife exists in most cases. And the livelihoods we are talking about here is the involvement of communities in the conservation efforts. And that is the reason why the livelihoods of those communities are important to us.
Yeah.
And today we are going to be celebrating that. And again, another thing that we are also going to be launching today is that stimulus program that I mentioned. We are going to be saying, yes, we have already launched it. Yes, we have already started paying conservancies that needed the much needed assistance. And yes, we have the community scouts. We have already got them on board. And we are celebrating the fact that they're there because they're going to make the work of Kenya Wildlife Service that much easier. Okay. So yes, we are happy to be in Diani. Yeah. We are happy to be celebrating the day today. And of course, we want to see the impact, particularly with the local communities, Trevor.
Okay. DG, paint for me a picture looking forward into 2021. Now, you've had a fantastic run in 2020. There was 0 rhino poaching, and only 11 elephants were lost out of more than 350 poaching before that. Now, that's a good record. What are we looking at in 2021?
Thank you very much, Trevor. Actually, the effort that we did in 2020, we don't see ourselves relenting this year. We want to be able to keep the same record of 0 poaching for rhinos, but then why not 0 poaching for elephants as well? We are going to be pushing it so as to make sure that we actually up our game to make sure that the protection and of wild species and wild animals and their spaces is not only maintained but enhanced. So that is the way we're going forward in 2021 and beyond, because we don't want to focus on only just this coming year. We want to, our plans, and this is where I was talking about the management plans. Management plans focus even beyond that. Like, say, for example, now we launched the Amboseli National Park Management Plan in December, and that targets up to 2030. So it shows you that the plan is not just for year on year, it's one where we target a space beyond so many years, so that we can then review it properly to be able to enhance it for the period beyond that. So going forward, we are very hopeful, we're very happy, and we are excited that the year holds good things for us, having had that record in 2020, and we are asking Kenyans just to work with us, support us in what we do, and more than anything else, come and visit your parks. Come and see the God-given heritage that you have that is going to help you understand you and and your children and your children's children to be able to enjoy a space that is free, God-given, but managed by us in the sense that we want to keep it for you, keep it pristine, so your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren can enjoy it into the future.
Yeah, how do we create a sense of ownership for the people? Because DG, you're mentioning a very important aspect where there's a great heritage, but people don't know about it. How then do we create that sense of ownership with the communities as well? Can people come in, adopt animals? What do they do?
Absolutely, Trevor. Actually, we had already launched through the ministry and the minister himself on the Adopt a Rhino. And you can actually come in and adopt a rhino. Of course, we'll ask you to pay a small fee so that we can then be able to use those funds towards conservation of the same animals. And we also have an event coming up on the 12th of August where we will be naming elephants. And this will be done in the Amboseli on the 12th of August, where we'll be naming elephants. So those are some of the strategies with regard to engaging not only the local community, but also externally, those visitors that come to pay us a visit. If they feel they really want to have that attachment, there is a way you can actually be able to adopt. Of course, depending on what animal you're going to adopt, like say, for example, if we're talking about elephants and maybe twins who are born, we'll give you a certain amount for that, for you to be able to adopt and have your name or the name of your grandchild or the name of your child named after these animals. And then you can track them years on end thereafter as a way of being able to get yourself to come and say, I appreciate wildlife and I am able to come and say this animal called, Wanjiro, if Wanjiro is the name that you are adopted. That elephant is called Wanjiro because I was able to come and adopt that animal. So that creates a sense of ownership. It creates a sense of belonging with the animal so that then you can be able to say, I understand our wildlife. I'm a part of the conservation effort. And that's what we want Kenyans to do, and even international visitors, yes.
So how much would it cost me to name an elephant Ombija, for example? I mean, vanity, I'm vain. This is why I work on TV. So how much would it cost me to name an elephant Ombija?
Well, Trevor, we will ask you for something in the regions of between $500,000 and $1 million.
Okay.
Because we feel, but Trevor has I mean, you look at Trevor. Yeah. Trevor looks sharp, presents himself in that way. I'm sure Trevor can be able to afford $500,000, can be able to afford $1 million. I'm certain that can happen.
Looks can be very deceiving.
But, like rhinos.
Yeah.
Like rhinos, we are talking about maybe 100,000 or 50,000, Okay. It's that kind of thing. Because we also want you to have a commitment. I mean, Trevor, if we asked you to pay 500 shillings, I don't think that would be too much of a commitment, would it?
Yeah.
But if we asked you to go and look for 50,000 so that you can adopt an animal and have pride in ownership of naming that animal, I think you'd be more inclined to say, yes, I think this is a commitment that I
absolutely.
Like. Because it all goes towards the conservation effort.
Yeah. A quick question, DG.
Yes.
Are you looking to introduce any new animals in the park or any movement of animals to different places? Because I've had people say that sometimes they go to one park, they don't see a lion, they want to move to the other. What is the plan to ensure that wherever you go, you get the full experience?
Well, Trevor, actually, that is a very good point. I can tell you why. I don't know whether you remember during the young days when you used to come to the park and you saw Sebastian.
The chimpanzee?
You remember Sebastian, the chimpanzee?
Yes.
In the good old days?
Yes.
Now, we are bringing Sebastian back. Okay, we're not bringing Sebastian back from the dead because Sebastian died. But we are actually going to be introducing this year, 2021, 2 chimpanzees within the Nairobi National Park.
Oh, wow.
So we want to give a new experience and to make people now, those stories they used to hear of Sebastian. Now they will be able to actually share in Sebastian in a new form because we're actually going to bring 2 of them sometime later this year and then ask people to come and visit so that they can be able to share in that experience. And we will go on transforming the safari walk, the orphanage, and other areas, not only in Nairobi National Park, but in other parks. Like now, for example, Impala in Kisumu also has an orphanage. which we shall also improve so that we can make a better experience for those people that want to visit, not to be able to see the old things that they used to see and, you know, day in, day out, but have a new experience of new animals and, you know, even exotic animals. We're thinking about that as well. So,
right.
yes, going forward, the future is very bright.
Brilliant. Thank you, DG. So quick question here as we wind up on this. How has been your transition? I know you are former Navy and now you're with KWS. How has that been?
Yes.
From a very active duty to somehow almost leisurely? I would pay anything to do your job because really we'd have to live in the park. But how has that transition been like?
Well, Trevor, actually, it's not as leisurely as you think, trust me. It keeps you very busy, very busy running around to make sure that things are working. But I must say, I really credit the fact that I had the experience of having been in the KDF before I came and joined the Kenya Wildlife Service. Why? Because I draw from the experience that I have had with the Kenya Defense Forces and particularly the Navy. Of course, issues of the marine protected areas where we have areas where we protect. Those are within the sea, and that is an area I spent quite a bit of time in. But of course, my background in security also helps me to be able to deal with the issues I was talking about earlier, the anti-poaching activities that we're doing, because that, of course, that grounding I had from the military has helped me be able to understand security, to understand the way security works, interagency, and of course, intelligence-led operations, those kind of things, so that we can then be able to get the achievements and the kind of results we got in 2020, where we were able to bring rhino poaching to zero. It's not a mean feat. It's something that actually I can say I have gone into the background that I have to be able to have, to enhance, to harness the people that I had around me to be able to get that result. So yes, definitely, the experience that I had from the military has served me well at KWS.
DG, thank you so much for making time for us, and all the best in 2021 as you continue your streak of zero poaching, Director General.
Thank you very much, Trevor, and it's been excellent. It's been really good being on this show. Thank you.
I hope you'll come again more often so that you give us an update. When the chimpanzees arrive, we would like to come, and I'll also come and have an elephant named after me, but you're the one who will bear that cost, DG. Thank you so much in advance.
Thank you very much, Trevor. We will let you know, and I shall come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. That's Brigadier Retired John Waweru, Director General for Kenya Wildlife Service, joining us live from Diani on this World Wildlife Day. The theme this year is Forests and Livelihoods, Sustaining People and Planet. Let's cross over to Eldoret and speak to John Wanyama and find out what the people there are doing to ensure that the environment is conserved and the wildlife is done as well. John, what's happening where you are? What's the latest?
A very good morning to you, Trevor, and I'm privileged to have a young man who graduated as a civil engineer but has a passion in conserving the environment, and he has given the government around 7,000 free seedlings so that the government can plant and ensure that they grow them. A very good morning to you, Kim, and thank you for finding time to talk to us. And this is a very crucial area and a very passionate place for you. Why are you interested in conserving environment? If you can start with your name.
Okay, my name is Kennedy Kimtai, a youth from Ozingisho. One thing that gave me passion to plant trees and conserve environment is one. As we talk now, the trees we are seeing here, or the trees we have at home, planted by our older men and women those days. So now we are planting for future generation. That is greening the future. Yes.
You as a youth graduating from, you as a graduate, for a civil engineer graduate, what is this passion for you to ensure that you make the environment green, be habitable, especially for the wildlife?
One thing is that, have you ever asked yourself why we have tourists coming to Kenya? They are not coming to see us. They are coming to see the nature, that are the trees and the wildlife we have, not the people. So as a youth and any other Kenyan, we should conserve environment for the purpose of sustainability. In fact, today is the World Wildlife Day, and the theme is forest and livelihood. That is sustaining people and planet. Why? Because if we sustain the environment, we are sustaining the people within. Yes.
And many will ask, like, you maybe taking time to plant these seedlings and just giving the government for free. How do you gain from this?
One thing in anything to do with trees, one thing, anybody who is raising their seedlings, one, is he or she is an entrepreneur. Maybe he sells to members of the public, some government procure from them, and other people, maybe schools and churches. Secondly, if that tree get mature, we harvest, right? And we cut them to make other things. So the owner of the tree sells to other. That is just creating income, and that make improving livelihoods. One of the things it made me to do is that we all come from different background. And when I was growing up, I felt the only opportunity to me to sustain myself was to raise seedlings and sometimes sell and donate to public. Yes.
Which way do you think is the best way for this country, especially youth? You are the people who have energy to ensure that we conserve environment and make sure that the wildlife is existing. Which way do you think is the best way for youth and for people in this country to conserve environment?
One of the things is to plant trees and conserve what is there already. Secondly, for sustainability, and maybe I play with the government to empower the youth in terms of feeling what is required for them to raise seedlings, and maybe spaces when there's a public land, the government to donate to the youth within, and avail what is required, that is seeds, maybe water tanks, and the machines to pump water. Another thing is that when there was an initiative by government last year that was saying we should have a tree seedling nursery within a location or sub-location. What does it mean? We have 1,000 locations, sub-location, that is according to the administration of government. So if we have one per location or sub-location, we have 1,000 tree seedling nurseries across the country. That means within the area, the people within that nursery, they will plant trees. And again, they will be buying from that place, not free. The government will buy from the nurseries within and plant within. Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. That is Kim, a civil engineer graduate, but passionate in planting trees and donating even to the government free. And as you have heard from him, Trevor is saying that those visitors who come to Kenya, especially tourists, huwa wanakuja kuona wanyama, sio sisi kama binadamu, na kwa hivyo siku hii ni muhimu kwake. And he's saying that being the Wildlife Day ni siku ya wanyama, na kwa hivyo kutoka kwangu pia wanyama. Trevor, sina la ziada, kwako studio.
Well, thank you, Wanyama. Wanyama, as your name suggests, that's John Wanyama speaking to us from Eldoret. When tourists come here, said wamekuja kuona wanyama. Thanks, Wanyama. So let's continue with this conversation on the World Wildlife Day. Joining me now is Cyril Lazare, Kenya Country Coordinator, UNEP. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
We may have left you out on that Swahili session in just a bit, but this is...
Okay.
Thanks for making time here. So, Kenya and the rest of the world is celebrating World Wildlife Day. What is your highlight for this year? What are you looking forward to?
Well, thank you very much, Trevor, for having me. I think what is very important, as our executive director said is more often now, is to really celebrate the coherence, to celebrate the unity, to celebrate the dialogues that human and nature need to have together. If you take a a human species without animal species, then you're going nowhere. So the connection with the forest also said it all. And we all know that all the threats to the humanity are not interconnected. So if you take the forest, if you take the climate change, if you take wildlife, if you take even the clean air that we are talking about now today, all are interconnected. And we all now know how important our forests to humanity and to human being, you know. Forests are important as they regenerated our air, they regenerated and they produce, they catalyze oxygens, and oxygens are tremendously important, of course, for life. So celebrating the World Wildlife Days is very important for the United Nations Environment and for the UN, as per se. Usually these events bring together high-level dignitaries to have a conversation around the policy and how to improve global policy and also global regulations to make sure that that we are sustaining our life. But today, and this year, because of COVID, unfortunately, it will just be virtual. So we will still have a high-level panel conversation that would take place in New York, bringing together, senior people, not only UN, but also, politicians to address issues that are meant to help us to, to sustain our forest, to sustain our wildlife.
But you've also been pushing a very specific agenda on clean seas. And we have environmentalists and aquatic life people saying that if nothing is done, the amount of plastic in the oceans will outweigh fish in 2050. As we speak now, what is the greatest threat facing aquatic life today?
Thank you again for that very important questions. Aquatic life today is being threatened by 5 major facts, I would say. The first one is the global warming, in other words, climate change. Climate change makes our water, our oceans, more warmer. And because our water is more warmer, of course, fish and aquatic species have faced difficulties in surviving. So those who have aquarium, for example, they can understand very well what we are talking about. And climate change is definitely, climate change and global warming, of course, are definitely the most the important one. And after that, of course, plastic pollutions. You won't believe, Trevor, this number, 5 trillions of plastics afloat the sea and the oceans. This is huge, globally. So for each pound of fish species that we are extracting from the oceans, we invest, we send back to the river 2 pounds. Meaning that actually we are threatening more our aquatic ecosystem than we are caring about it. And hence, it remains vital for our life. It remains vital for the life on the earth. So it's a critical time that we all come together, not only politicians, but citizens, because this also depends on the way we consume. It depends on the choice that we have. We have a choice to use sustainable and to go for sustainable consumption, or to continue the use of single-use plastic as we're doing now, knowing that there is no way of continuing such habits. So it's really a time to do it. And as you have mentioned very well, the fact that this agenda that we are pushing, it's also a time for us and for UN Environment and for the people of Kenya to support again the second flip-floppy expedition, which is taking place actually in Kisumu, to ride towards the 3 countries that are actually benefiting from this Lake Victoria.
What is flip-floppy expedition?
Flip-floppy expedition is it's a wonderful boat coming from ingenious Kenyans who thought that they can do something else. They can give a second life to to the plastics, not only to the single-use plastic, but to the plastic in general. That through innovation, they can give it a second life. And they have built a dough that, for the first time, have sold in 2017 in January from Lamu to Zanzibar. mainly to generate awareness around the way we behave, the way we use plastic, the way we behave around the Lake Victoria.
So this is a boat or a dhow made out of plastic?
Exactly. This is
That's
dhow
what it's
made
called,
out of plastic,
flip-floppy.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
the flip-floppy was, I don't know whether that was a mixture between the Kiswahili and the English or so, but the wonderful names that was agreed was a flip-floppy. And this year we will have the second expedition that will sail from Kisumu. And actually, the county government of Kisumu have really made a lot. But before this dhow being moved to Kisumu, it was stationed at the Kenya Wildlife Headquarters. And the mean of this expedition is not only to push our clean seas agenda, as you mentioned it, but also to bring not only the country was surrounding the lake to agree on a way forward as of plastic ban, not only the single-use plastic bag, but also all the unsustainable material that are now polluting the lake. And we all know how vital is that lake, not only for the more than almost 50 million people living around the lake, but also for the economy. 2 years ago, Kenya has hosted here the first ever global conference on blue economy. And we could see all those people which have come from the different counties, what they were doing actually around the lakes. So this is an opportunity to say, okay, the lake is very vital, not only for the economy, but it's vital for people. Can we imagine a life without fish, without our kids, without future generation, knowing what means the taste of a fish in the plate? It's just unbelievable.
But Cyril, we've banned the use of plastic bags here. Is that not enough?
The ban is good, but remember, Trevor, that a ban is someone signing, declaring that from now on forward, looking forward, we won't use it anymore. But we still have to enforce. Kenya, of course, is doing very well. Kenya, Rwanda, and many other countries, Eritrea, etc., they're doing very well. But hence, we still have to push this agenda. We still have to push the courses. We have to reach at another level. The plastic, the single-use plastic bag was indeed an entry point for the regulation on the single-use use plastic bags. But we, not only that we have to enforce it, but we have to reach another level, which is to clean the environment, to remove all this plastic that for years has been dumped into the ocean, has been dumped into our environment. We can now seize when you travel, when you land at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, which we have just done this morning, and you just drive towards, towards the CBDs and then the tourist country, you can now see that the city is cleaner than what it used to be a few years back. So it means that enforcement is happening. During the launch of the 5 years strategic plan, NEMA 5-year strategic plan, the DG NEMA was very excited to update on the stages of the implementation. They have said that so far they have reached between 80% and 90% in terms of enforcing the regulation and the policy. But a lot still have to be done. You can hear here and there, you can hear as you discuss with different actors that people are now domesticating. They are carrying on this agenda. But Kenya set the example, which is good, but other countries also have to rally. Other countries have also now to take the agenda. And this is the second message that the flip-floppy expedition is carrying. How can Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya learn from each other's experiences? You will hear, Trevor, that, that in Tanzania, for example, they are really building the agenda towards the ban. In Uganda, they have issued the ban, but they are still looking forward to see how now to make it effective. In Kenya, they have taken a few steps forward. They have not only gazetted the ban, but the enforcement is now well implemented now. And you can see that, many companies who used to be champions on producing plastics, they're now producing alternative material. And you will recall, just to name one of these many private sectors, the King Plastic. They're now using other things than plastic. I will not name what they're using, but which is fabulous. So, what still needs to be done? Private sector still really have to carry forward this agenda. And Kenya is a wonderful platform for innovations. I would not only mention M-Pesa, which is now making Kenya being very famous around the world, but the very vibrant health sectors, the very vibrant youth here are tremendous opportunity to really foster to really use innovation as a vehicle to strengthen the policy around ban of plastics and to make sure that the plastic ban is really effective towards the different niches, through communities, through schools, through hospitals, etc. So this is what UN Environment is now pushing and continue to push again. And our Clean Seas campaign, of course, is there to remind policy and decision maker that we have other invisible plastic elements that we don't see often, which are microbeads and beads, which are little piece of plastic that you can only see when you go at the beach side. And if you can carry, if you can take, I mean, some few pounds of sand in your hands, you will see that unfortunately there is a plastic. So this is the other message that the DAO is also carrying, the flip-flop is carrying.
So Cyril, the truth of the matter is then there's plastic which is disposed, it ends up in the oceans, consumed even by the fish, ends up being consumed by the human beings, which causes diseases. Is that the general cycle? Because then we're trying to get the buy-in for the people to understand why this should be a big deal. We've also seen some fish, we are being told now that certain fish from certain areas shouldn't be consumed because they're poisoned. Is that one and the same thing?
You know, we have, I mean, the ideas of circularity has to also comes in here. The ideas of circularity is how can the way we consume and produce be understand and explain so that we don't use items that we consume on a daily basis in a single way. And the question that you just raised, Trevor, reflect very well the ideas of circularity that the United Nations Environment Programme is also now pushing. The problem with single-use plastics is the footprints of producing one plastic bags. To produce one plastic bags, actually, you use more than 50 liters water. 50 liter water. So imagine how many plastic bags a single family will use in a day or used to use in the day, within the day. If they use, the average, as we were going through the ban in Kenya, was that each family used the average between 3 and 7 single-use plastic bags, which is almost a half thousand liter water per day. This is just huge. So I'm taking this example on water, and we all know how water is a very rare resource in many countries, and indeed in Kenya. Now, if you extend this example by the time that is needed to eliminate this single-use plastic bag when it's thrown into the environment, it's more than a century. By the time this single-use bag has been thrown into the environment and been digested by the normal digestion phenomenon, chemistries, etc., it would have other effects on other biodiversities, species, on species, and then on fishes. And into the ocean in particular, it would reduce, of course, the oxygens being dissolved into the oceans. And oxygens, whereby it's necessary, it's very important for the fish to breathe and for also the coral and so on. So this is the way it's end up creating acidity. Yeah. And we all know that acidity is neither good for fishes and for other aquatic species, and it's not good for human beings as well, because it's now increase the global warming effect. So this is why it's very important not only to look at using a single bag, disposing in a way, and perhaps ensure that it's being eliminated, but to look at the global, at the whole cycle, from the production to the elimination. Yeah. And again, let's have these pictures, these magnitudes. To produce, we will spend like a 5 times more energy, and to reduce, we will need like a 5 times 5 more, meaning 25 times more energy, more water, and everything to reduce and to eliminate the plastic. Yeah. So it's better at the end to hit upstream and to produce less single-use material so that we can save on energy, we can save on water, we can save on other elements that are normally mean to contribute to the wealth of a human being, than just to look at what are we doing with the waste once we have used it. So this is why, again, the DAO that is kicking off tomorrow in Kisumu is carrying that message. How can we be actors in protecting the Lake Victoria, and in making sure that the 3 countries surrounding the Lake Victoria are having a common vision looking forward. And from these messages, we hope that, again, Africa will be championing throughout the continents and whatever. So, and why not carry this message forward towards the world. So
the flip-floppy expedition is really a call to action for people to conserve the environment, especially the clean seas. But there's always the question where the rubber meets the road. What about the people whose livelihoods depends on this plastics area? What do we do with them?
Excellent. Trevor, one of the threats to the aquatic life actually is also the livelihood, fishery livelihood actually. So you will recall, Trevor, because we have been doing that together a few years ago when we have been traveling around the coast and look at what type of alternative we have in Kenya, so that as we are pushing for the ban, we don't kill people's jobs, which in most of the cases they rely on as a single, as a main sources of income. You will also recall that with Professor George Wakungo, who have been on the field, we have been together on the field. At the same time we were pushing the message for the ban, we were also showing how we can use alternative material to produce not only the same bags, the same material, but also to create more jobs. One of my colleagues, Dr. Munang Richard, who is our expert on climate change, has been working a lot with youth, with university, academia, etc., in championing what they call Ebafosa, which was really to show how we can produce, we can do more with very local material and with also a very little mean. One of our programs also on Switch Africa is also doing a lot in Kenya, showing to people how to produce, how to generate a lot of income with alternative material. Actually, people in Kisumu are producing leather from the fish skin. They're producing tiles from they're using plastic to generate and to produce tiles, and this tile has been demonstrated its robustness and its effectiveness in at the same time as the ordinary tiles. So all these are initiatives that that we are also fostering, that we are also supporting in using local material on the what we are also calling the green economy, using alternative material as we also produce produce green jobs. So all in all, Kenya actually has shown his innovations skills, and if you look at academia, how they have developed new curriculum to make innovations really tackling the need of making available into the market material that is not plastic related, but of same capacity and same utility as what plastic used to be. So our message here is how can we now sustainably produce and consume in a way that doesn't threaten our environment. At the same time, we are also championing the Sustainable Development Goal. And this is what we have been doing, not only as United Nations Environment Program, but also with other sister agencies. I will give perhaps another example. We have been working, for example, with the 7 Kids community in Kibra to collect plastic bottle. This plastic bottle is sold to many private sector company, the Make Group, for example, through also, other company who are processing single-use plastic. And this is generating income for the community, and the community is using it to avail drinking water, and also to make sure that schools and kids from the orphanage that they have there are having food and also having access to drinking water. And by doing so, as you can see, we are not only helping the local community to sustain and improve their own life, but we are also meeting some of the target of the Sustainable Development Goal, which is access to drinking water as they also clean the environment.
So as we wind up on this, what do you wish people learn from this flip-floppy expedition?
I would say 3 main messages. The first one is in our capacity it's our decision to be actors of the change. This is the first message. And the change for us means reducing our footprint by using less unsustainable material, by using less single-use material, and in these cases, single-use plastics, and looking forward, disposing very well the other type of plastic. Perhaps we will have words on this. That would be my first message. Yeah. The second one is we are part of the solution of sustaining our environment, of making our environment be sustainable. What I mean by making our environment sustainable, the main message here is if you look at the itinerary of the DAO, which would really go around the coast and build awareness, not only to the indigenous people, to the local populations, but also pushing the decision makers to rally these causes by understanding the message that we are carrying through the Clean Seas and be part of the Clean Seas coalitions. That would be the second message. And the third message, which would echo mainly the message of the executive director, which has been also declined by the regional director, Dr. Biao, is to say the African Ministerial Conference, AMSEM, has also tell us the directions through the use, how African can use innovation to contribute to fulfill their agenda as we're looking forward to 2063. They have set the line and the direction. But furthermore, it's time to build a peace or to build connections, to be connected with the nature. And the current outbreak, COVID outbreak that we are going through have really demonstrated that we have pushed a bit in terms of not being too conscious about the importance of making sure that the way we're interacting with the nature has to be part of our daily agenda. Yeah. And the nature is speaking to us. You will recall, Trevor, that at the beginning of the breakout, many hypotheses was on the table. And some people saying that the COVID was because of bait, others saying that no, it's it's because people have eaten some indigenous species and so on. But finally, we are just realizing that whether it is because of bat or because of pangolin, the end point is that the human has not been behaving in a very sustainable way as he interact with the nature, and that it's really time that we all come all together and say, okay, how is it correct that we continue to drop more from the environment that we are giving back? Is it normal that we don't plant tree enough? Is it normal that we are degrading our forests? Is it normal that we are polluting our sea more than we are protecting? Is it normal that we are going beyond and continue to endanger, to consume the protected spaces? So all these are extremely important. And since, as we start this interview, you asked the question to know what was the heavy threat to the aquatics. Actually, what is saving the visible part of our environment is that there is a lot of protected rules and law to save some of our ecosystem, to protect, for example, parks. The same has to go for oceans. Protecting some of the oceans areas is as equal important as to protect the parks. And if today, I was listening to the interview, to the previous talk that you were having with the general head of wildlife, KWS, and he says that for the first time, we didn't have any single rhino being poached in Kenya. It would be important that looking forward, that we as a human species, that we also say, looking forward by 2020, we won't have any protected, endangered aquatic species being eaten or being killed. Okay. That would be a beginning of the solution. Right. And I think that one of the messages that the DAO is also carrying is people around the Lake Victoria live mostly from the ecotourism and from the fishing activity that they're having, within the lake. Right. How can we sustain that? And how can we make sure that the future generation will also enjoy the same pleasure and the same, the same pleasure in interacting with the lake? And this is a living question that all citizens, all of us in Kenya, in Uganda, and then in Tanzania need to take it forward. And even where there is an aquatic area, I think that this is very important. And this is one of the messages that the DAO hope to carry through I mean, a convergence in terms of regulations, I mean, governance, etc.
Yeah.
So we really look forward to be with people of Kisumu and to see the kickoff of the DAO. I mean, sailing from from Kisumu towards Mwanza in Tanzania.
All right. Thank you so much for making time for us, Cyril Lazare, Kenya Country Coordinator, UNEP. It's a World Wildlife Day. It takes all of us to conserve the environment. You have to do your part. That's about it. Going on a break now. When we come back, Nicholas Onyango is working out with Willis Bazu. They should be here and the entire team as always. I don't work out.